Well, hello everyone. This is John Byrne with Poets and Quants. Welcome to our fireside chat, although I don't see a fire. Hopefully we'll ignite one. With UVA Darden School of Business Senior Associate Dean Tom Steenburgh, who I have had the great fortune of spending a Sunday afternoon with in a cluttered, heated conference room. Not all that long ago, right, Tom?
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago. In a very different world.
Yes, indeed. This is pre-pandemic times. When I was doing my story on the focus on teaching at the Darden School, which if you don't know this, you need to know this right now. The best MBA teaching faculty in the world, Darden. Survey after survey over year after year after year proves it. And what I was doing with Tom that afternoon was sitting in on a session that Tom was conducting with his core faculty in the marketing area, going over what worked in the last class, what didn't work, and also talking about the upcoming class and how it should best be taught. And if you don't know this already, you should know this. Darden is a case study school like Harvard, like IESE in Barcelona, and Western University's Ivy in Canada. Those are the four primary dominant case study schools. And so, Tom, welcome.
Thanks so much for having me, and thanks for spending some time with us in the fall. It was a real pleasure to have you.
No, it was my pleasure. Totally. So Tom has spent the last 8 years at Darden. Before that, he was at 9 years at Harvard Business School. You got your PhD at Yale, you got a master's from Michigan, and you started off at BU in engineering of all things.
I know.
So tell us, what is this Darden MBA program really like? What are you trying to achieve with it, with the students who come?
I think, if you think about what we do with our students, is that we provide them a general management education. And so that you get, if you think of developing a T-shaped person, as it gets talked about these days, your first year you spend sort of thinking about general management. You take all the core subjects, finance, marketing, strategy, accounting, but we teach it from a lens where, like in my area, marketing, where it's not just a functional area lens. It's like, why is marketing important to the vitality of a firm? And when you become a CEO, or you become a consultant, or you're an investment manager, what do you need to know about marketing to help you do your job? Everybody generates customers. Everybody creates relationships with customers. Everybody generates demand. So what about that's important at senior levels? And we also teach you technique to help you do your job right out of school. But the first year is the general management breadth from a senior level. And then your second year, you specialize, and you can learn more about general management. We have plenty of kids that go through rotational programs with that. And then we have other students who specialize either in consulting or in banking, and you can get some depth area and you have choice in those ways. So we take a holistic approach to developing people. This last year, I spent some time with our alumni board talking about how should we be developing people in the modern world. What do people need to know? And help me think about that problem from a 1 to 2 year out, like how do you get your first job? And then more importantly, 5 and 10 years out, what distinguishes people who really excel in your areas? And so that's how we look at what we do. We look at it as a people development place, and how can we set you up for success in the long run?
And at Darden, it's worth pointing out that case study, like I mentioned before, is a predominant method of teaching. And at your school, the size of your classes that is the core classes, because electives are much smaller, is 2/3 the size of the Harvard Business School class. Right. Instead of 90, it's 60. Why has the case study method been shown to be so effective in teaching, business school students general management?
Because I think you get to think about problems from a wide variety of perspectives. And I think there's a couple things you get out of case method. One is you have to come to the answers yourself. And so we lead discussions and ask questions, but the students, sort of struggle to figure out, well, what is the most important thing of this case? And how would I approach a problem like this? And so there's less structure to it in a way than a lecture. And so you have to explore on your own, and that's more work. And the way that we do it, because everybody knows that coming in, they buy into the process and they work really hard. And so they're really engaged in class and in that process of active learning. I think the other thing you get out of case that you don't get out of a lecture-based course is a third of our students are international students, roughly speaking. A number come from the military. Some come from very, different backgrounds of wealth or, different sexes, sexual orientation, all those things. You get the different perspectives on how, the world works. And as you lead teams in today's world, it becomes more important to be sensitive to those issues and understand challenges that people have. And I think the case method allows you to explore those things really effectively.
And it brings out the experiences that every student brings to the school through their previous work experience. Because everyone may have seen a piece of this problem or challenge and has something to say about it. And, when you sit in a case study classroom that's done really well, it literally is like listening to a symphony.
Yeah.
And the teacher becomes the conductor. And plays every instrument in that orchestra, brings out the best of those students and their experiences, because that teacher also knows where they've worked, what they've done, what the perspective is, what they can add or what they can't add to the discussion.
Yeah, I think that's right. And the other thing, when I help, junior faculty think about, becoming more of a master in the classroom and like perfecting the craft of teaching, some of it's just trust that that's there. And yeah. I know, like, when I started, I didn't really trust. Like, I think when I started, I'll just use myself as the example. I was very concerned about showing like I was the smartest guy in the room, and like I had to prove my credentials. And the truth is, like, they already knew I was smart, and I had the right degrees. I was working at Harvard. They weren't worried about that. And I think over the years, I've learned to trust more, like, the experiences in the room is just like, how do I get it out? And how do I ask the questions to let everyone share their knowledge? And of course I have things to add. But it just trusting that that's there. It takes a while, to get to there as an instructor.
And the commitment to get it right in the classroom is really striking to me. That's why I came to campus to take a close look at that. One of the interesting things that I noticed in the discussion that I attended that you were orchestrating in that conference room on a Sunday afternoon was even discussion about who in a classroom to call. Because if you called someone who could unravel a case instantly in the beginning, that defeats the purpose of the exploration of the learning and the knowledge and the options and why this is chosen and that's not chosen. So there's literally discussion about who should be called initially to lay out the synopsis of the case, which is fascinating to me. There's so much thought about everything like that. And then how the case should flow. What are the key elements of the case and how should they be taught? How do you wrap it up? And it's not telling a person what to do. It's suggesting this is one way, because then I had the wonderful opportunity to actually sit in on the same class taught by two of your best professors and to see them take completely different approaches and both work beautifully.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the beauty of it. And is to let the faculty make the most of their own abilities. Like, how do I let some of myself shine through and conduct the class in a way that it helps me get the most out of the group I'm with. And we think about that. When we work together, like in that teaching group, a big aspect that you've picked up on is like, we help each other anticipate what could happen in the classroom. And we're always thinking about, well, what's the field of possibilities that might occur? And then how can we get the most of that? So if this comes up, what should we emphasize? If that comes up, what do we emphasize? How do we move through the discussion so that the main things get out? And they always do. It's just a matter of like, how do you go about that to make sure you get them out?
And to me also, those meetings, which occur weekly, and often, at times when maybe professors would prefer to be playing golf or watching CNN or doing their research, shows to me the remarkable commitment that the professors have in conveying information in the classroom.
Yeah.
And, I'm sure that there are other schools that confirm the stereotype that many may have. A professor who's taught a course X number of times and simply walks in, not thinking, not having the rehearsed, not having thought about the case again, not having met with his colleagues and vigorously debated what the lesson should be or what the approach should be. But that doesn't happen at Darden.
No, it doesn't. I mean, it's nobody phones it in. And it's great. I've never been more grateful than this past spring, but it's really a pleasure to be around faculty that think this way, because we push each other to do our best. And it's a delight.
Now, Tom, what are some of the other rituals and traditions at Darden that make the MBA experience unusual, if not unique? I'm thinking of one thing is, the morning coffee is one thing, a clear ritual in the cycle and the rhythms of the Darden MBA life.
Yeah, I think first coffee is one for sure, and that's the whole school gets together from 9:30 to 10 essentially, and has coffee, and oftentimes there's awards presented, or if there's a club that's running something, they'll make an announcement. Every once in a while you'll have dances or singing, something like this that the whole community engages in. And even when our alums come back, when we have like a board meeting or a reunion, we'll build in first coffee, because that's a time when we build community. Another community thing is Darden Cup, and that's the sporting events and the other events that the sections compete against each other, because we're a section-based school. And the last couple of years we've had talent contests as part of the Darden Cup, so it's not just athletic types of events. We've had cricket as a competition. It's not just American sports, soccer or football. And but again, it's a way for people to gather. I'd say that one of the things that distinguishes Darden is it's an intimate place. And you'd mentioned the section size of 65. There's lots of benefits to that, because you get to know people really well. And the faculty office building is right across from where we teach, and people make themselves available to students. And I think the small size of the faculty and student body lends itself to a lot of interaction between the groups, and these sorts of rituals help with that.
And so does your location in Charlottesville.
Yeah.
Because, it's not like New York or Chicago or LA or any other big city where, you can disappear into the nooks and crannies of an apartment building, a subway ride, or even further away. Everyone in Charlottesville lives close.
Yeah.
The faculty are there. The students are there. It's a very close-knit community as a result of your location as well.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, you mentioned I went to Boston U as an undergrad, and my life was in the city. It was we go out in the city, and it in Charlottesville. There's still plenty of things to do in the city, and I don't feel like it's a fishbowl at all when I went out with when I go out with my family. But a lot of your life revolves around the school, and it's nice. It's a nice community to be part of.
Totally. And then you have actually a paid international experience, right? You had a donor
That's right.
over some money that literally allows everyone to travel on an excursion abroad in the MBA experience without having to put their hand in their pockets.
That's right. And so we have that scholarship for people to go to go abroad, and we have great trips all over the world. Business is global these days, and we truly believe in that. It's reflected in the types of students we bring in, and it's reflected in that experience where we'd like to get you out and allow you to explore a different country, different culture, and the businesses that work in there. And you can take more than one. So we have a scholarship for one. Everybody gets right. That, and our goal is to have everybody go. We're really close. We're really, most people do. Almost everyone does, and but you have more opportunities than that to take part in those experiences. You can actually have 2 or 3 if you'd like.
And that's part of the experiential learning piece of this as well, right?
Yes.
People working on projects with organizations.
Yeah, that's right. And we have lots of experiences that people can partake in that. So this would be an example of one where you get out and have the experiential learning and see companies in different cultures. We also have a global consulting project, which in your second year, once you get to your second year, you can take this experience where you work with an international company. Many people do. And you get a project. You start that in the fall of distance learning, fly in typically January, spend a week at the company, learning more about the project, making more progress there, maybe sharing some initial findings, and then come back to Charlottesville and present out by the end of the second year. So it's a longer experience where you get to work with companies abroad.
How many cases does the average MBA student at Darden read over the course of their 2-year experience?
Oh God, I actually don't know the answer to that, but it's probably in the 500 or 600 range would be my guess. It's a lot.
Yeah,
it's yeah,
exactly, and in the core in particular, right? I mean, that's
yeah.
And
by mid-October, you've hit 100.
and yet it's not as many as it used to be, right? I mean, there was a time where the Darden core was by far known to be off the charts, like crazy hard, where you'd have exams on weekends and papers due at unusual times. And the cases were even more plentiful than they are today. Isn't that true?
That is definitely true. And I'm glad that I'm not announcing that to the incoming class, because I'm not sure I would, I value my safety. The alums talk about this all the time, where it used to be a place where you'd have 3 hours of class on a Saturday. And now we get through most everything. We have some Friday classes, but mostly we're a Monday through Thursday. We're still actually high on the contact hour side. We're at the upper end of that, but not no Saturday classes.
Well, although I'm sure, even the current students would still say, boy, this is really hard and it's really rigorous. And my God, I don't know how anyone has enough time to handle it all, and particularly the first year.
I think you hit on it earlier. Part of our culture is that people come to Darden because they want to work. They want a rigorous academic experience, and they buy in. And it takes lots of forms. In our culture, you go to class. The expectations, you go to class. The students buy in, faculty buy in. I know I personally have stayed at the Darden Inn probably 3, 4, 5 nights since I've joined Darden, because I will be at class. If it snows and they don't clear the roads, it doesn't matter. The expectation is that you're there. If I expected the students, then they should expect it of me. So,
Exactly.
and I think that makes it a really a wonderful experience. You know, I think it's a real strength of what we do.
Tom, do you see a difference in the students when they come in and then when they leave? You know, many people talk about the so-called transformative experience that a good MBA program is. Do you actually see it with your own eyes and feel in your head that difference in people when they graduate?
Um, I do, and I think you see it in lots of different ways. I think you'll have people that maybe haven't traveled very much, or maybe had stayed in one industry or had been narrow in a particular way, and they come into Darden and they have an experience where they meet friends from around the world. They have a global experience. Maybe they work with a global company. They get involved in things that they never thought that they'd be involved in, exposed to careers that they never thought that they'd be exposed to, and they change their life. You know, it's amazing to be part of, and I love, you know, part of the reason that I teach is to watch that transformation, to watch how people grow. That's what motivates me in a big way. And so I love seeing that. I love, and I'm amazed by, you know, people come in and start their own businesses while they're here. Start with an idea and watch that idea grow over the 2 years and get something together by the time they leave. It's really, it's great. And it's really, it's just a pleasure to be around. And other people are more focused. They kind of came from, let's say, investment banking, wanted to go back, and they use this as a way to move their career forward. There's some of that, too. But I think everybody gets that step, whatever they're looking for. They find it here, and there's lots of choice to figure out what that might be for you.
Now, Tom, you've made Darden your home.
Mm-hmm.
You left Boston and Harvard Business School after 9 years. You're coming on, almost approaching that 9-year mark at Darden.
It's hard to believe.
But I see you as part of the culture there and the community, and I can never imagine you elsewhere. Why? What is it about the place that actually makes you want to be such an important part of it?
Geez, that's a great question. I actually, as you're talking about this, I have a hard time remembering not being here in a way. Yeah, it's really, I think for me, I have a lot of friends who I think are relationships I've made since I've been here that I really cherish a lot. There's people that I knew, like Laline, I knew from when she was a PhD student at Harvard. So it's great to watch her, you know, sort of just become even more than she was. It was hard to believe, but you know, just watch people grow. A lot of it has to do with relationships. A lot of it has to do with mission of the school. I think it's a really good fit for me. I think the emphasis on practice, which we haven't necessarily talked about a lot, but we have an expectation our faculty will work with businesses, solve real business problems, not just live in an ivory tower. That fits me really, really, really well. I had a job before I did my PhD. I did my PhD when I was a little older.
You were at Xerox for a lot of years.
I ran incentive strategy. It was responsible for U.S. incentive strategy. So, you know, I like that bent of the school towards solving real problems and working with businesses. I run conferences that have that flavor to it, and that's appreciated at Darden. And in other schools, it's more discipline based, let's say, and
Sure.
It's solely about that. So that fits me really well.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. So if you were to advise someone who's interested in coming to Darden, how should they explore the opportunity? How should they get to know the school? What should they be doing?
If I could encourage them to do anything, would it be to come to class,
Yeah.
come see the magic happen, watch how people engage with each other. It's really an experiential good, if you can talk about it and it's yeah, it sounds nice. But if you're there and you're in the middle of it, you're like, yeah, that's for me. And maybe for some people they say, no, I don't want that. Like it's not for me. For like I'm not sure I want to go to class all the time. I don't know. I was an engineer. Like if you asked me when I was an undergrad, like, oh, I want that. I don't know. Sometimes I went, sometimes I didn't. But our model wouldn't work if people didn't buy in. I think most people, when they come and see it, they say, yeah, I want to be part of it. And I think going to a class is really helpful. Being on grounds, it's harder these days, but obviously. But I think going to morning coffee, seeing the community, seeing who you can be exposed to, it's there's no replacement for doing that. So please come visit, I guess would be my advice.
Really true. And Charlottesville is a beautiful place to visit. I mean, it's the whole downtown area is spectacular. The whole pedestrian walk, all the restaurants. The town is known as one of the best places for foodies in America. Great selection of fantastic restaurants where you have chefs that are really dedicated to elevating the food scene in the town. And the campus is beautiful. I mean, it's Jeffersonian and it feels very comfortable, incredibly comfortable. You go, you walk on the grounds and you feel like you belong there.
Yeah, it's really wonderful. I mean, I was worried coming from a city that we'd run out of things to do or there wouldn't be enough restaurants. And I haven't found that to be the case at all for all the reasons you talked about. You walk on the downtown mall, you can eat outside. I remember on my recruiting visit here, when they recruited me, they brought me to a restaurant where my wife and I had dinner, at Bijou. And we sat outside. It was early November, sitting outside, 70-degree day. I was like, oh, this feels so good. And
that's
it's just so nice.
Those mild winters.
Yeah, that's right. It's just great. So there's lots to do. It's a really nice community to be in.
Great. Tom, a pleasure as always.
Thanks, John. It's really great
to see you, and great to see you happy and healthy, particularly during these crazy times.
Yeah, you too. You too.
And all of you out there, I just want to say, one way to get to know the school, even before you go to campus in Charlottesville and walk the grounds and sit in the class, if you have the benefit of doing that, and having the morning coffee in the morning and hobnobbing with students and faculty and staff. There was a virtual commencement that Darden had this year in lieu of an in-person one, which I believe you're going to have at some later date. But one of the features of that virtual commencement was a series of videos that the faculty contributed to, in which members of the faculty, more than 20 different members, gave their own very personal welcomes or congratulations to each of the graduating students. And it tells me so much about the culture of the school and the commitment that the professors there have to the success of the students, like nothing else. Yeah. And Luca, who is in your marketing group and is, he's from Italy. And when he opens up and he says, damn, I'm gonna miss you, you believe him. Damn, I'm gonna miss you. You can't, how many other schools in the world you're gonna ever get that from a professor? And the professor is being totally honest with you. So there you go.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Tom Steenburgh, Senior Associate Dean at the Darden School of Business at the University of Virginia in Charlottesville. Thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure.